Hi everybody, I'm Karen Gibbs, Creative Director of Banyan Boutiques by Northcott. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Can you tell I'm in the mood? Definitely, definitely. I have a little bit of earth tone green on going today, but I've got every kind of green possible. I don't know if they necessarily all go together, but we just had a riot of green, okay? Here in Colorado, we have snow, lots of snow, again. But remember, Sunday is the first day of spring, okay? So we're thinking spring green. We're thinking, because of St. Patrick's Day, we're thinking of all of those flowers that are just starting to peek out and just itching to bloom, right? So I'm looking at green in a different way today. And I want you to think about that too. Think about green as a neutral. There's something different, right? We always say, okay, what's your neutral palette? Your blacks, your whites, your creams, your grays, that kind of thing. Why can't green be a neutral, right? And I think it is. If you think about it, we have green grass, we have green foliage, we have, green trees. All of that is set up against, all of our flowers are set up against that. Even in the fall, if you think about it, coming from upstate New York, the leaves, all the changing colors of leaves, you need that green and yes, the brown for all the colors to really sing, okay? That really bright citrus green, I have it here on the table, the bright citrus green of some of the ivy kind of plants just makes the other colors really sing, all right? We have a collection. I'm going to hit a few things today and talk about color. I really want to talk about color. I'm all about color, okay? One of our collections, our destination collection, I have it here, Ireland, is going to be hitting stores soon. And it's about the green, but it's also about putting the kind of orangey terracotta with it, right? And seeing what happens, okay? I love the different kinds of green, the blue greens, the more Kelly greens, the forest greens, the earth tone greens, depending on how you change it up, right? Makes the green just sing in a different way. And then if you blend all of those together, then you've got an interesting palette, I think. So your color application with green, just like any other color, but with green, it is about processing the color. And we've talked about that when every part of the batik is hand done, right? But the color application, you have to make sure you have enough saturation of color. So when you're applying the color, kind of, it's almost with a sponge, you're applying the big balls of color, or, with the Corturan technique, which is more the squirt bottle or the dots of color. You need a lot of saturation. So if you don't push it down far enough, if you don't put enough color there, or if the color that you've mixed is, you don't have enough of the color dye in it, it's not going to give you that rich saturation of color. It's going to give you more of a mid-tone. If that's what you're going for, that's great. I have a habit of wanting the saturation of color, the true clean look of the saturation that is given to me by making sure that we process the color enough. So even applying the color on the batik, but you've got to let it sit and process, right? Just like Lindy, she is experimenting with a whole bunch of dyes. I think her latest was avocado. It was kind of cool. And beet and all of these different colors at home, okay? And if you look at it and you think, okay, how many, she has a log going and talking about how many hours this is processing, or, how long does this process? I get a lot of questions sometimes. How long does it take to make a batik? Depends. It depends on how long you have to process it, right? How long you have to process the color and let the color set and just feed into the fabric. If you don't let it process the same, then what you see on the headers as sample yardage here is not going to be the same as the colors that you see in the production yardage. Okay, so not only do they have a formula that they've mixed up in, like in buckets, that's how we make the colors, right? It's hand done. They have a formula of the color, but they also know how long they've let that process. Also, what colors are applied first, right? If I apply a dark green first and then try and apply a lighter green, the lighter green is going to be gone. I'm not going to see anything, right? You got to apply the light green first and then be conscious of where to apply the dark green to make sure the colors meld. Okay, so then not only is the color formulation important, but to write down and recognize, right? But it's the process, how long you let it process, how long you let it sit. And then sitting, okay, it's sitting in the sun, right? Or what if it's a rainy day? Do you have to let it process longer? What if you let it process longer? And we all know humidity affects everything. Think about your hair. How does your humidity affect your hair? I know I have to really bring my straightener with me when I go to the East Coast. Whereas out here in Colorado, it's not as frizzy as it normally would be on the East Coast. Okay, it's the humidity, right? So that affects things as well. Whether obviously we haven't come up with a batik that has the rain in it or the flooding that is rainy season. But if it's clouded over, even your mood is affected, right? So batiks are affected by that as well. I'm not saying they're moody or anything like that, but the processes of applying that color, you have to know how long you've processed it, and you want it you want to apply the color the same each time, right? So the sun is shining today. It's got this much humidity. This is the amount of heat. This is the amount of color I'm applying. All of that kind of thing is really important. It's not just the motif that's stamped on there with wax. It's how long you're letting your process go to achieve the same color every single time. Okay. Another question I'm asked a lot is how many yards do you produce of each one? And you think about that. Okay, so if one color everyone just loves, and we've got to process tons and tons of yardage, okay, maybe a couple thousand yards or something like that. What if we do it all in one, and we want a whole bunch of people working on it at once? Their version of the same green is going to be different. Okay, because this team is different than this team, how they apply it, how they scrunch the fabric, all of that we have to figure that out. Okay, so if I want a saturation of color like this, and I want this amount of salt on there, the little burst of color, I generally will want to use the same team to apply for all of that yardage. Okay, so when you start to think about, okay, well, how long does it take again? It depends. It depends on, do I have the same team doing all of this yardage, or do I have different teams? Do I have a quality control where I'm willing to give a little bit on this as long as we have the same saturation of color? Okay, so I want to challenge you a little bit. Use your greens. I want to see what kind of, can you use a green as a neutral? Go ahead and pull your greens. And here's a great way to start that. Sunday is, if you go hashtag 100-day project, I think that's what it is. Okay. So hashtag 100-day project, and it's just making you try and be creative for 100 days. Okay. I want to see what kind of projects you're doing. Kick it off with the green. How about that? Can we kick it off with using green as a neutral to kind of inspire that garden? Okay. Even if you think about vegetables, right? You've got tons of tomato plants and you see mostly green, and then there's pops of red, right? It makes me think of a holiday then. But then just think of the different color combinations, and green is actually your neutral. Okay. So shout out to me today and tell me how you're celebrating St. Patrick's Day, what you're going to do on Sunday as the first day of spring. I'm kind of tired of the snow right now, I have to say. I'm tired of winter. I'm ready. I'm ready to get out there into the spring. So I'm hoping we get a little bit warmer weather over the weekend. So you are in the group Karen Gibbs for the Love of Batiks, and I really appreciate you joining me today. Thank you so much.